Hello dear viewer, thank you for joining Light of Hope. Welcome to this program, Reviving Hope. Here we seek to share hope, to revive your hope, and also to establish you in that hope. In episode 1, we are talking about we all need hope. It doesn't matter your situation. When you look at yourself, your situation, your circumstance, your problem, your pain may be lesser than others, but one thing is common: we all need hope. You may be experiencing economic hardships and unemployment. You may be struggling to provide for yourself basic needs, to support your family, to pay your rent arrears, to pay school fees, to pay your debts and be debt-free. You may have struggled to do all this by any kind of means you have thought about, you have learned, you have been advised, you have read, you have known before, but still you may be sinking below the bar. You are filled with discouragement and anxiety about the future. You need hope, my friend. If you don't have any economic challenge, you may be experiencing a challenge in your family, maybe family conflict. You may have experienced divorce. You may have experienced a broken relationship. These experiences do inflict emotional wounds that may take time to heal. And because these situations always take away our peace, we find ourselves in lonely situations and circumstances. We need hope. Maybe you are sick, or a member of your family is suffering a sickness or a disability that has laid a lot of emotional burden upon you as you seek to care, as you look at the pain and suffering of your loved ones. Maybe you have also lost a loved one and you are filled with questions that you don't find answers. You need hope. You may not have the challenges that I have mentioned, but maybe you are experiencing due to political instability in your country. Maybe there is fears of insecurity in your neighborhood. There may be social unrest. You may be fearing for your life and worried about the situation in your region. You need hope. But if you are not affected by any of these challenges, maybe I've not mentioned what you are experiencing, your point of need. But still there is something that is quite common amongst almost everyone. It is the thought of whether God has forgiven us our past sins. You may be suffering guilt and having mental torture of some past sin, mistake, some wrong decision you made in the past. You are not sure whether your life is going to find direction again, whether God accepts you, whether Christ will come and you will find yourself amongst the saved. But even in all these things that I have mentioned, I may have not mentioned your point of need, but you know the kind of problem, the kind of challenge, the kind of loss, and the pain and disappointment you have experienced. But the message is one for us. God spoke to Moses about the children of Israel in the book of Exodus chapter 3 verse 7 and verse 8. And he says that I have seen the affliction of my people Israel. I know their sorrows. I have heard their cry by the reason of their taskmasters. And in verse 8 he says, and I have come down to deliver them from their oppressors, the Egyptians. God not only knows, God not only sees, God not only hears our problems, but He is intending and willing to save us from such situations. A good message we find in the book of Jeremiah. The children of Israel are experiencing captivity and oppression of the Babylonians For 70 years they were in captivity. For long they were longing to go back and enjoy the freedom they used to have in their land. When they were losing hope, they are worried, when shall this captivity end? Prophet Jeremiah brought them a message of hope. In 29 verse 11 of the book of Jeremiah, he says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts to give you peace and not evil, to give you a future and a hope." It is God's intention and God's will that we experience peace, we experience hope, we experience the hope of a better future. God intends and God is willing to give us a future and a hope, to give us peace and to save us from evil. This is the message that this program is bearing to you, and that we shall continue to explore, that we can live with hope. God's intention, God's desire, God's will for us is that we may live with hope. Do not despair. Cheer up. Whatever happens around us, hope is still alive.